Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel. I hope you are all well. We are continuing on in this video with the Jesmonite AC100 and the silkscreens. There's a couple of things I need to try before I lay this to rest. This is the tray I did in the last video. Now this tray I went crazy with the blobs and the splodges and the splashes, and I fell in love with this colour here, which is the Sun-Kissed pigment from Homeware Design Co. And also this lighter shade of it here. Like, everything about this tray I loved. Now I did use the Jesmonite AC100 to smush in to the silkscreen to see what results we could get. Now this did leave a layered textured surface. So what I want to try here is a couple things. I want to go more minimalist. I want to see what it looks like in a more minimalist fashion. But equally I want to put the Jesmonite AC100 onto the silkscreen in varying levels of thickness. So in one I want to kind of rub it in like proper rub coat and then scrape off the excess, and the second one I just want to put a bit more, and then in the third one we're going to go crazy and we're going to lay it down super thick to see what happens, if it works, and if that leaves us with a seriously bumpy raised Jesmonite AC100 textured surface. Okay, that's my aim for this video. So we have 3 different projects happening here. First up, I want minimalist, and I want that sun-kissed colour to be my main predominant colour. So every other colour in between is just going to be the background, and that main colour is going to be the sun-kissed. Now all of my pigments are by Homeware Design Co, and your link for Homeware Design Co will be in the description box below. These moulds that I'm using, 2 of them out of the 3 are by Moulds and Shapes. Again, code down below. I'm not an affiliate from either of those companies. I do not earn any money, but there are discount codes down there for you guys. Now, I did invest in some more squeezy bottles. I've been using the same squeezy bottles now for around 2.5 to 3 years, and they're all bust. They are all bust. So I did buy some fresh ones, which is quite exciting. Now, you do not need to do this. I use squeezy bottles primarily for the finer details. So the really thin lines or the tiny little dots. Now, again, you don't need it for dots. You can do that with a lollipop stick. But these fine lines, and they're very, very structured, intentional fine lines. I definitely think that having a squeezy bottle is the way forward when you're looking at detail like that. I didn't really put much thought into this tray. I wasn't being particularly aimful. I didn't have a plan. I just was eyeballing it. Where do I want something? Where do I want a splodge? Where do I want a dot or a line or a dollop? So yeah, I didn't really spend too much time thinking about the background. The one thing I already did was lay down some of the natural Jesmonite without any colour in it whatsoever, because I know that that is going to pop against the sun-kissed pigment. Equally, you see where I'm laying down this sunshine yellow right here. I didn't like the way the 2 natural Jesmonite circles joined in the middle, and that's simply preference. It's just because I put too much on, and of course it naturally spreads and they joined up, and I'm not a lover. I like individual separate circles. So I just added a bit of yellow there to kind of hide it, but equally I know that the silk screen is going to hide that. So very much like temporary tattoos, if you're not happy with something, a temporary tattoo, slap it over the top. Trust me, it brings it back to life, and it saves anything that you're not quite in love with. It can really just elevate your pieces if you slap a temporary tattoo on it. And I guess it's the same with a silk screen. And yeah, that was my justification. I was very tempted to wipe it off, but I thought, no, leave it. Next up, we are going to just make up a little bit more Jesmonite, and we're going a bit simpler on the next 2. So I'm also going to look at the difference between sieved and non-sieved Jesmonite. So I'm not going to lie, guys, my Jesmonite AC100, I am on the dregs. I have literally got a cup full of powder left in my giant tub. I ordered a good solid year and a bit ago, so my Jesmonite AC100 is probably on the back end of being good right now. It has like a 6-month to 1 year shelf life, and I would definitely be confident in saying I am pushing that. I have pushed past that, and I'm still using my Jesmonite AC100. And yeah, so I am on the dregs right now. So I have ordered some more, and I am excited. I'm excited to get some fresh Jesmonite. The reason I mention that is because the difference between the sieved and unsieved is massively noticeable when your Jesmonite is either on the edge or past its use by date, past its best by date. And I am confident in saying that my Jesmonite AC100 is past its best date. So back to the video. We're going to look at that when we demold. Because I had a little bit of the Sunkissed left over, I decided to add it into these two. So this was like a halfway through, let me carry on, this is what I'm now going to do kind of thing. The intentions I set out at the beginning of the video were not my intentions when I started filming, but this is where it led me because I had leftover Jesmonite, and I knew then this is the perfect opportunity to try all of the things and all of the layers and see what we can get. I'm just simply filling these up with natural Jesmonite. I want minimalist. I really want to try and keep it minimalist and come away from that crazy hectic tray that you would have seen in the last video. Now, I left them overnight on my cake rack to fully dry out, ready for the silkscreen, and this is what we're looking like. We've got one that just looks like a giant egg. A giant egg with a burnt orange yolk. And then we've got this tray. Now, I have to be honest with you guys, I was not in love. I didn't look at this tray and think, yay, wow, love it. I think the contrast was just not there for me. Now, here's a close-up. Can you see the dots? That was not mixed. That was not sieved. Sorry. That Jesmonite AC100 was not sieved. So anywhere you see that natural, that is where it's most noticeable. Those speckled clumps of unsieved powder are most noticeable in the natural on natural. It's not as noticeable when you add colour, but yeah, it's just to keep in mind, sieve your Jesmonite AC100 powder. Equally, I think because mine is out of date. Mine's out of date. But anyway, here we are. Now, I was planning on changing it up a bit and not using the Zen green for the stenciling. However, creature of habits, I love the Zen green on these colours. So I was tempted to go with a darker brown. I decided to stick to the Zen green. Equally, I've washed out my stencils from the last video, but I just wanted to try the ferns. So you guys, if you've been with me a while, you'll know I did a video using these beautiful fern stencils as well. These are self-adhesive silkscreens. And I have a couple left that have not been used yet. So I'm going to use those and then get those washed. And then I'm going to use the older ones that were washed on the coasters. Now, this is where we get to disguise. This is where if we don't like the way something has come out, we can just simply disguise it. And I knew that. So that is why I didn't really pay much mind to the fact that I didn't like this base at all. I was not feeling it. At this point, even though I want to go for the minimalist, I was still very much in love with the chaotic kind of abstractness of the last tray. So yeah, it takes a lot for me to move on and fall in love with something completely different. Now, I have sped this bit up for you. I have laid down the silk screens. Now, because they don't have much room around them, there's really not much forgiveness here. I have to go easy. I have to go real steady, real slow. That is why I've sped it up. I need to make sure I do not get anywhere near that edge whatsoever because I've cut all of these out. And that doesn't help when doing something like this because you have to be super careful. But again, this tray is getting the real rub coat. So I'm massaging this in with my gloved hand. And I'm not leaving much on the tray at all. I've rubbed it in and I've kind of rubbed it off. And oh my goodness me. I already forgot that I have two natural Jesmonite blobs that I hate under there because the actual fern has come through and it is beautiful. I did exactly the same to the smaller fern on the left hand side of the tray. And again, this came out stunning. Absolutely gorgeous. And they just disguise. So like if you're just not happy with your base, just cover it up, and I promise you, you will love it. Whether you do this technique or whether you use a temporary tattoo. I have not yet tried Jesmonite AC100 splash, splodge, drip, all of that with a temporary tattoo. I've only ever really tried simple, straightforward, plain colours. So that's definitely something I would like to try in the future. That it might be soon. It might be soon as my new Jesmonite AC100 arrives. But here we are. I didn't do too much on this tray. I wanted to keep it as minimalist as possible, just to see, you know, where my heart lies. Then we have a problem. Like, Houston, we got a problem. I have used some of these silk screens before. Now, I have said in previous videos they are reusable because that is what it says on the listing. Washable, reusable, still sticky, and they are not wrong. They are still sticky. So as soon as I wash my silk screens, you can see this one has been used. It's a little bit battered and a little bit tatty. As soon as I use my silk screens, I take them into the bathroom. I wash them in my Jesmonite bucket of water, and they come out lovely. They're still sticky, really, really sticky. But it wasn't really sticking to this, and I don't know why. I guess it's just past its best. I don't know if I've used that stencil once or twice, but guys, it wasn't sticking like I expected it to stick. It wasn't sticking really at all. Now, this stencil here, you would have seen me just use this one in the large tray in the last video. This was barely sticking whatsoever. It was washed, it was clean, it felt sticky to the touch. This is the one I'm going to lay on super thick, really, really thick. But again, whilst it stayed in place, it didn't stick. You know, it didn't stick. It just wasn't really clinging as much as I wanted it to. And this was the thick base. Now, they all have a varying degree of raised texture here because I've done them all completely differently. So we're going to look at each and every individual one. This one here, oh my gosh, I love this. I love this form of simplicity, just one dot of colour and the natural Jesmonite. And this is very, very, reminds me very much of, I think, don't quote me on it, I think it's Lemon Crush on Instagram, Lemon Crush Studios. She does a lot of work like this, and her work is so pow, in your face, impactful, stunning. But this was the stencil that I had problems with. It just was not sticking really at all. And I was so worried about seepage and leakage like you would get in a stencil. Like if you was just to use a non-adhesive stencil. This is why I've tried them. They don't work for me. But this one here, we laid it on thick, like proper thick. And it reminds me of puff vinyl. How crazy is that? Now, the downside to laying it on thick was when I pulled the stencil back, it kind of just splashed everywhere because there was so much excess coming through that silk screen, and it just dolloped on the side of the coaster. But again, it doesn't really take away. I'll have to clean that up. But it gives such a massively raised textured surface. I was in love with it. Now, again, the results on these are varied because on the big tray that you're seeing here, that silk screen, those 3 silk screens that I used were practically brand new, and they stuck like a dream. Like a dream. You could lift the silk screen up and it would bring the tray with it. It was so stuck. And that just gives a much more defined edge on your stenciled design. And then the other 2 barely stuck at all. They stuck, but they barely stuck. You know, I feel like I've washed them again now, and I'm not sure they'll have a 3rd or 4th use, which is something to bear in mind. It's something I never knew when I started into this, that they would not be as sticky as they claim to be. Yeah, it's a real downside to this whole stencil thing, but again, loving the results. So the large tray, that was a proper rubbed technique. There's barely any Jesmonite on there. It's not really, it's textured. You can definitely feel it's a rough texture where those leaves are, but it's not that raised. The one on the right has like a mid coat, and the big round kind of geode edged coaster is thick. It's so thick. I love it. Now, this brings me to the other question I've been getting is, can we multi-layer? So you do one layer with your silk screen, and then once that's dried, you put another silk screen on top and you do another layer. Now, I would have automatically said, yeah, that sounds great. I would say if you're using acrylic paint, that would work amazing. And that is definitely something I want to try. But if you are using Jesmonite AC100 to smush it through the silkscreen, I genuinely, hand on heart, don't think it's going to work. The Jesmonite AC100 leaves a seriously textured, bumpy surface, and I just don't think that if you lay down another silkscreen, it's necessarily going to stick and cling in all of the places that you need it to stick and cling. But again, that might be something I can try later in the year, or I don't know, next week, who knows. But I definitely would love to try the layered effect that you guys are talking about, but maybe use the acrylic paint and not the Jesmonite AC100. That's going to give us a much flatter surface. But when we compare it to the tray that I made in the last video, my heart wanted to try minimalist. It really did. But I think I'm not overly in love with the amount of one color. That tray on the right hand side has too much of one color for me. I'd be happy if it was just like maybe all that color and just one or two blobs of another color. I'd be happy with that, but I just think it's too much. It's too many white blobs, and I'm just not keen on the actual design. Whereas the one on the left screams yes. Absolutely yes, this is more me. Much more abstract, loads and loads of back colours there, splodging it on, splashing it on, dripping it on, splodging it on. Do all of the things to get all of the colours in there together and then lay your silkscreen down. That is much more me than the one on the right. So yeah, let me know your thoughts. We've looked at 3 different ways of laying the Jesmonite AC100 down. We've used the rub, the mid and the piling it on thick. Each of them have their own qualities. I love the fact that we can touch it. It's so tactile and you can feel that raised surface. The other thing to add is I have since sealed these with the acrylic sealer from AC100, and they're beautiful, like beautiful. It works a dream. We've got no smudging like we would if we were using acrylic paint. So yeah, lots to think about. It's funny because part of me is like, I'm ready to move on now, but part of me is like, I haven't answered all of my own questions on this. And this also inspired me to try something I'm really excited about, and that is the same color. So Jesmonite AC100 coaster with the exact same color Jesmonite AC100 embossing on it. I think that would look absolutely stunning. And I just might have to try it. So if you are still here at this point, I'm assuming you're enjoying it and you like what I'm doing here. So I hope you don't mind if I bring that video soon as well, because I'm desperate to try it. I just think it would look stunning, especially in natural Jesmonite. I'm not sure when I'm going to be able to get that done because I'm not sure I've got enough left, but hopefully my delivery of my new Jesmonite will be here maybe Monday or Tuesday, so maybe that will be a Wednesday video, but we shall see what we've got left in the pot, and I will see you all in the next video. If you are still here, thank you so much. I hope you found this video helpful, and yeah, any questions, leave them down below, and I will see you all in the next video. Bye.